The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Tuesday episode of Running Point on ysnlive.com. As always, it is brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. I'm going to do what I always do and put their logo on the top right corner of the screen so you know where to go. If you're in the market for a New Year's vehicle, there's no one better than Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. They go the extra mile for you, so you don't have to. And that's the same thing that we try to do here on this show every single day. We thank Greenwood Chevrolet for being a sponsor since day one. They believed in what this show is. They've stuck with us through a lot of changes and a lot of pivots and growth of this show. And they'll continue to stay with us, hopefully, as we try to continue to grow this show and make it better every day and make it better every time we kind of flip a new season. I kind of have a, internal meeting of like myself, like how can I do better this season than last season? So, this show's constantly evolving. And that's one of the things that I love about it. It's never the same thing. And I constantly look at ways to get it better. And Greenwood Chevrolet has been there through every single part of it. So we thank them for their constant support and sponsorship of this show. Like I said, since day one. Got a great show for you today, despite the fact that there were no finals that came in last night because of the weather, and it looks like not going to be too many games to talk about tonight either. We are in a kind of holding pattern with the weather. Like I said yesterday, it might be the worst kind of weather week of the spring so far, because games today were pretty much canceled yesterday. There were a lot of games yesterday. The teams have said we're not even gonna bother with tomorrow. Which is, I think, is the first time we've seen teams just kind of unilaterally cancel 2 days in a row, and we see the ripples of that today. Not too many games on the schedule for today, but hopefully tomorrow, maybe. I mean, the 21 Storm Tracker forecast still has a little bit of rain in our forecast for tomorrow. It's going to be a little bit warmer than today, but we might have to wait even another day before we get more baseball and softball. Hopefully not, though, because we miss it. And a couple of days away has got us itching for some. So what we're going to do today, we're going to dive headfirst into these tournaments still, and we're going to have a lot of tournament talk since we don't have games to talk about from finals last night. We do have an interview to play for you guys. It's going to be from Brooke Tater from Howland, sophomore pitcher that is just electric. One of the great pitchers in the area, really. I mean, you talk about that AAC, it's loaded, and she's one of them as a sophomore. One of the interesting things about her story or conversation that I found interesting and different from the other AAC teams and pitchers that we talk about, she is kind of led by a senior pitcher that is, kind of showed her the ropes since she stepped in as her freshman year last season, and Lexi Spangler, who's done a really good job of kind of, leading Brooke along and showing her kind of what the work ethic is and what it takes to be that dominant mindset in the circle. And the other AAC young pitchers, other than Tori Strines last year, had Maddie Lester, but Maddie Lester graduated last year, so she only had 1 year of that. Brooke Tater had a couple of years of an upperclassman kind of, showing her the ropes, giving her the guide rails and things like that. So really like diving into that part of the conversation and how that has helped. And How that's different from a lot of the other pitchers in the AAC. In fact, all of them, because Melina Toth has been kind of the one ace for Canfield, not like the upperclassman ace. And then you have, Sydney Watts, who's obviously a sophomore and the leader of Fitch. And then Boardman, Tori Strines. Maddie Lester was a senior last year. She graduated. So now it's pretty much Strines and Natalie Davis coming back from an injury. So she wasn't there last year. So that's kind of Boardman's a unique situation there. But then you have Brooke Tater, who has had an upperclassman both years consistently to kind of, pick the brain of and really learn from and grow from. And I think that can pay really dividends for the mental aspect of the game, especially. Her stuff probably would have been the exact same as it is without Lexi, but the mental aspect of toughness and being able to get through adversity in the circle, that kind of stuff can really, really be helped by having an upperclassman right there with you through your first 2 years. And then next year, it's going to be Brooke's turn to be an upperclassman, and she's going to lean on a lot of that stuff that Lexi did the last 2 years to kind of build up the next generation of Howland pitchers. So it was a great conversation with Brooke, and can't wait for you guys to hear it a little bit later on in the show. But first, what we're going to do is we're going to pull up the brackets. I'm going to start. This is the one on the screen. It's going to be the Division 1 bracket, and it's the Division 1. I think it's Northeast 1, if I'm not mistaken. So the Northeast 1 bracket. And Division 1 Northeast District is broken down into 3 separate district brackets because the Super District is really big. So let's look at it. The highest seed in this bracket is near the bottom, and it's the second seeded Green Bulldogs down there. Now, you guys know Green. They played really tough against Austintown Fitch in last year's district championship game. In Austintown, they're a great softball team out of the Federal League. They earned that 2 seed. They only have 1 loss on the year. It's going to be very hard to get through this district and get past Green. But as you look at the bottom of the bracket and some of the teams that Green might have to face, some familiar opponents, Maslin Perry out of the Federal League as well. But then what we want to focus on is, of course, the middle of the bracket right here where we see our YSN school, Boardman. And because I was talking to Fred Moots about this, and he was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place when he was trying to figure out where to go. You always want a home sectional final or a home sectional semifinal, just to give your team that one extra home game. But the way it worked out, where a lot of teams kind of avoided Fitch as the 1 seed, Boardman just didn't think the best route in a district tournament was to go somewhere where they would get maybe a home game. So they picked this bracket where they will be on the road to start, and that will be on May 10th at 5 o'clock. They're going to go to Walsh Jesuit. So Boardman's last home game will be the last home game of the regular season. They will not get a home tournament game. Walsh, a big news about them, their all-star pitcher is out for the season with an injury, unfortunately for Walsh. So still a very, very good softball team, but maybe not as prolific or as dangerous as they once were with that lockdown pitching in the circle. If Boardman's able to get past Walsh and win this game, win this sectional semifinal, then they will go to the district semis, and that would be on the 15th, and it would be a 2 o'clock start. And they would play really, I would think, Riverside if numbers go the way they should. Obviously, softball and baseball, you have a higher rate of upset because it's one game and the sport is so fickle. But I think Riverside can handle 26 and 27 seeds in their sectional semifinal. Riverside is a game where, if this goes the way YSN wants it to, with our team winning, Boardman Riverside would be a very interesting district semifinal. They've played each other twice this year, and in both games, Boardman had late leads that slipped away. In both games, Coach Moots strongly believes that they, in all rights, could have and should have won those games. They are very confident they'd be able to go in and play Riverside and compete with Riverside and even beat Riverside if that matchup were to happen. And I think that's one of the reasons why Boardman and Coach Moots made this decision when they looked at this bracket and they saw that Riverside would be a likely district semifinal opponent. They kind of felt confident that they would have a good chance of success in a third matchup with the Beavers, and they definitely hope that that would happen. But the trade-off for that, of course, is the fact that they do not get a home game. They have to go to Walsh Jesuit out of the jump, and it's the only sectional final that is already set in this bracket. As you see down here, Green has to await a winner, and so does Maslin Perry. I wouldn't count out Maslin Perry. I know they're kind of down compared to last year, but they're a team that definitely knows how to win in tournament time, and they play in the Federal League, which means they play a lot of really, really, really good teams. And they've played Green, they've played Walsh this year as well. So very familiar. And when you're familiar with the team, you can't ever count them out. So if this goes chalk and Perry matches up with Green in a district semi, obviously Green would be the favorite with the 1-loss record and the 2 seed, and a very good team that went to the district championship last year. But I wouldn't count out a Maslin Perry at all in this game. And then, looking at the Maslin Perry side, I wouldn't even count out Gilmore Academy. I'm interested to see how Gilmore Academy kind of how they respond to this bracket, because we talked about it yesterday. They were a Division III team last year. They played South Range in the Division III district championship game. So they're making the jump from Division III all the way to Division I. Not a jump that you see too often in high school sports. Usually, if a team moves a division up or down, it's usually one division. You got a couple of extra kids in that particular year that helped you jump a division or drop a division. But this time around, Gilmore Academy going from D3 to D1, and how they kind of adjust to the Division One bracket, I'm interested to see. That will be a really fun 14-12 matchup that could happen, and in Massillon, if Gilmore Academy is able to take care of their first round game. I know Gilmore Academy did lose a handful of really good seniors last year that actually went on to play college hockey. It's an interesting tidbit. I was talking to their coach before that district championship game at South Range, and I was asking her if they had any college softball players that were going to go and play at the next level in college. And they were like, no, but we do have a couple of college hockey players on the team. That threw me off a little bit. So they did have a couple of seniors graduate to continue their hockey career after Gilmore Academy. But I think Gilmore's gonna be put up a tough fight against Maslin Perry. But like I said, that'll be an interesting game as I give you one last look of this Northeast 1 bracket as we kind of scroll up. And if it goes chalk, it would be Riverside versus Perry in a district championship game, 2 versus 5. Um, which, I think that would be interesting. I would rather see Boardman Perry, obviously, as a YSN member, and I think that would be a better matchup. I think Perry might, not Perry, sorry, Green. I think Green would kind of match up pretty well with Riverside. I think Riverside has not as electric pitching per se. They give up more runs than maybe you would like to see from a team that wants to compete with a lineup like Green. Boardman has definitely given up a couple runs here and there, but their pitching has not been the problem in their struggle spots. They just haven't been able to wake up that lineup for the most part of the season. Still batting under 260 as a team in Boardman. So it's different struggles for those teams. And in a tournament, I would much rather have really, really good pitching and, not the best hitting. I mean, it's not terrible hitting. They still have good hitters in that Boardman lineup. They still have people that can hurt you. But, you keep your team, you keep your opponent down, you always have a chance in tournament time. So if I had to choose between a lineup that was struggling going into tournament time and a pitching staff that was really, really good, or the opposite way around where a pitching staff was kind of struggling and the offense was really, really good, I would definitely want to choose the really dominant pitching in that kind of scenario. And I think one of the other things that could make Boardman really interesting is they have 3 arms that can throw at you. Hard to scout because they can throw Natalie Davis, Tori Strines, or Gabby Safara, who have all had moments this year where they've proven that they can pitch at a very high level. So let's go into the next East District for Division One in the East Two, and see how this one lines up. Northeast Two. One thing I forgot to kind of go into where that first district will be playing their district championship game. So we go back here, and all you have to do if you're new to the brackets on the OHSA site is hit site contact info, and it'll tell you. So Mentor will be the site of the district semifinals and the championship if Boardman's able to advance past Walsh, Jesuit, and get to a district semi. They would go to Mentor for their district games on the 15th for district semifinals. So let's go into the Northeast 2 district and see how that shapes up in Division 1. And it looks like this. Austintown Fitch is the top seed in this one. And you saw a lot of parity in the other two brackets because a lot of people didn't want to frankly touch Austintown Fitch. You saw a lot of teams make the decision to go into maybe a harder bracket with more strength overall just to avoid the 1 seed in Austintown Fitch. They will have the bye, of course, and play either the 38 seeded Brush or the 30 seeded Lakeside in the first round of the matchup. Below them, you have Madison and Uniontown Lake as 17 and 20 seeds. So the highest seed that Fitch could play in a district championship is 17. If that tells you anything about the teams that kind of didn't want to come into this bracket. The next highest seed in this bracket for Fitch is going to be the 10 seed in Willoughby South, and that's the team that I said, was down for the last couple of years. But you go back to 3 years ago when they were a really good softball team and did make waves in Division One, and their program has a lot of pedigree there. They do have a player of an alumni playing in the Power Five with Riley Frizzell playing at Missouri. So they definitely produce talent, and they produce a lot of it. So Willoughby South having a resurgent year as a program as the 10, and then they would have a very even matchup in the district semifinals if they got there with Eastlake North as the 11 seed, and they probably, in my opinion, would probably play Ellen. I think Glen Oak, even though those two teams are 19 and 18, I think Glen Oak is the favorite in that game with the schedule that Glen Oak plays and some of the teams that they've already beaten this year. I think they've proven that maybe they're a little bit underseeded. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Glen Oak runs their way into a district championship game as the 19 seed down there in Division One. They're a good softball team that plays a lot of better softball teams in that federal league. So, a lot of people look at their record maybe and they say, "Oh, I guess they're a 19 seed. That's a danger of Division One." I think they're probably underseeded, and they do have a good chance to make their way into that district championship game against Fitch. And if it wasn't Glen Oak, I would honestly say Willoughby South would be my next pick down there. So if I had to kind of predict this bracket, I think it would be Glen Oak versus Willoughby South in the district semifinals there. And I would pick Glen Oak in that game, but I wouldn't be shocked if Willoughby South won. And then Fitch is obviously the favorite to get right to the district championship. Nothing's easy in this sport. You can't overlook anybody, but I think it's pretty clear that a lot of teams wanted a quote unquote easier path than playing Austintown Fitch. So a lot of these middle seeds kind of got stuck with going into this bracket, and that's what you see in a lot of districts with really dominant 1 seeds. A lot of teams kind of dodge them, for lack of a better term. But that's the Austintown Fitch bracket. The district semifinals will be played on the 15th, and their site will be at Youngstown State Softball Complex. So unlike last year where Fitch was able to host all the way through the district championship and the regionals were at Youngstown State, this year the district semifinals and district championship game will be at YSU for that Northeast 2 district. I think last year, originally they were supposed to be, but then YSU earned the right to host the Horizon League tournament, and that messed things up. If I'm not mistaken, that's what happened last year. I don't think it was originally planned that Fitch was going to host those district semifinals and championship games. We'll go into the last district of Division One, and this is going to be the Northeast 3 district bracket. As you can see, Maslin Jackson in the top spot there at the 4 seed, and they will play the winner of Hoban versus Twinsburg. We go down a little bit. Stowe Monroe Falls, which is a very good team, playing Mayfield. That's 8 versus 32. And then you go down here, Chardon, who we saw against Poland earlier this season, splitting a doubleheader with Poland as the 3 seed. And then a little bit further down, you see our YSN coverage with Hoban and Louisville set for a possible matchup in a sectional final. Down there is Hoban is the 7 seed. Louisville is the 15 seed. They will host Solon in the sectional semis. So it could be an all YSN sectional semifinal, which would be the only all YSN sectional semi in Division 1 if that were to happen. In fact, I'm not mistaken, it's the only Division 1 bracket where we have multiple YSN teams in the same bracket, because obviously we don't have too many Division 1 teams, and Fitch and Boardman are in separate district brackets. So you look at it, and you look at this bracket. Obviously, Hoban, I think maybe a little bit underseeded. They're 12-5, and they have the second hardest strength of schedule according to the numbers that we use for our power ranking algorithm. They play almost exclusively Division 1 teams, so they're very, very ready for this this tournament. I think 7 might be a little bit low. They should be able to get their way into a district semifinal. But I'm looking at this Chardon team, and they're hard to figure out because their offense has been really, really good at times, and then their offense has been kind of vulnerable at times. We saw Keaton McDonald really handcuff the Hilltoppers in the game that she pitched against Chardon in a Poland 2-1 victory. So yeah, I think they're, and then this is the thing, Katie McDonald and the other pitchers that have given their lineup trouble this year, not too many of them, but they're the pitchers that have been the velocity pitchers. And Faith Porter, if this matchup were to happen, Chardon versus Hoban, a very good pitcher, but more of a contact pitcher that works down in the zone, has a really good drop ball. So I would be really really interested to see Chardon go up against a pitcher that isn't necessarily your quote unquote velocity strikeout pitcher. Faith Porter's strikeout numbers aren't the highest. She gets them. She'll get her strikeout. She'll get you to swing and miss at the drop balls that come off and go down below the zone. But she's not the high strikeout pitcher that a Katie McDonald or a Sydney Watts really is. She's more of a contact pitcher, trusts her really good defense behind her. And that's what most down ball pitchers are. Most drop ball pitchers that have that as their one pitch will force more weak contact than maybe strikeouts. So I would be interested to see how Chardon would kind of match up against that style pitcher, because we've seen them struggle a couple of times this year against high velocity strikeout pitchers. So obviously Faith Porter would be not as much velocity and a little bit down in the zone, and that would be something that Chardon might be able to succeed with, but we would have to see. The top of this bracket, I think Stowe Monroe Falls is a pretty solid 8 seed. Jackson is interesting. I haven't seen Jackson this year yet live, or I haven't even been able to take time to watch any of their Game Changer film yet. But when I think of Jackson and Stowe Monroe Falls, which would be the district semifinal, that would happen if it was chalk, I would honestly lean a little bit towards Stowe. I just mainly because I know a little bit more about him. We were going to have a South Range versus Stowe game before weather kind of took it away, so I kind of did a little bit of research on Stowe, and I know that you know a little bit more about him. So that's probably the only reason I would lean a little towards Stowe in that district semifinal if it were to happen, and I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. I don't think Mayfield is going to really bother Stowe down there, and I really don't see Twinsburg or Warren Harding giving Mass and Jackson much problems. Although I will give props to Warren Harding for having a much better year than last year. They are improving as a program dramatically, especially on the offensive lineup side. They can hit the ball. And when we were preparing for them versus Austintown Fish, and we were getting kind of the stats and trying to see what they would do against Sidney Watts, and Watts obviously threw a perfect game against Warren Harding. One of the things that we saw really, really quickly, me and Ty, as we were kind of talking about that game beforehand, is this Warren Harding team is not the Warren Harding team of last year that really, really struggled. This is a team that can hit the ball pretty well. They have, I think 5 or 6 girls at that point, so maybe a week ago, that had averages that were over 350. So they can hit really well. They have 7 wins in the season. They're a little bit down right now in the last week. They've lost a couple in a row, obviously, to Fitch, but then they lost a couple more during the week as well. So they're limping into the tournament. Maybe they can use this last couple days or this last week to kind of build some momentum into that sectional semifinal. I would say if I was picking this bracket, I would say Warren Harding wins that matchup and gets their shot at Jackson. But I still don't think that they have enough firepower to beat the Polar Bears. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is quite easily a Polar Bear versus a Bulldog semifinal with Stowe Monroe Falls. I think they're going to win their sectional pretty handily over Mayfield. District here for district semifinals is going to be played at Maslin in the sports complex in Maslin, Washington, which has been in the past host of the Division III regional tournament, and I think if it stays the same as last year, that has been moved. Last year, Division III was in Ravenna instead of Maslin. So I haven't had the chance to look at the regional bracket to see where regionals are going to be held. I think regionals for Division III, if I'm not mistaken, said Canton this year on the OHSA website, but we will definitely see. So those are kind of an overview of the Division I bracket and how it kind of looks and all the teams. I'm going to give you one more look at this one that's up and down real quick. But yeah, I have no problem seeing Stowe and Jackson in the district semis if that game were to happen. Like I said, just because I know a little bit more about Stowe, I might lean towards Stowe to win that. And then obviously we will, if that sectional semi goes the way we want it to, we will be guaranteed a YSN team in the district semis for this district. And I don't see anything stopping Chardon from getting there against either Louisville or Hoban. And I think Hoban would I would pick Hoban in that game. If it was Louisville, they're going to have a little bit of a tougher time, but I think Louisville's offense can definitely be one that fires up the engines and beats a team like Chardon. They've lost. They're below 500 Louisville, but they've lost to really, really good teams, and they've never been run ruled. So they've been in these close games. A lot of them haven't fallen their way, but they don't get blown out. They stay in games. That's a dangerous team. So whether it's Louisville or Hoban, I think we have a decent shot of having a team in this district championship game against, in my opinion, either Stowe or Maslin Jackson, which would be on the 17th at 5 o'clock in Maslin. With that being said, we've seen the brackets. It's about 1:30, so we've eaten up about half the show, and I could probably talk about softball for another 2 hours today. But we are going to pause, and we are going to save some of that talk for a little bit later on in the week, as we kind of anticipate maybe not having softball again, obviously tomorrow to talk about, and we won't have softball or baseball again maybe on Wednesday. We hope we will. But the forecast on Wednesday still kind of looks iffy. So I'm definitely going to save some of that tournament talk for a little bit later. I'm going to take a break now. And when we get back, we are going to go into the interview section of the show and hear from Howland's sophomore pitcher standout, Brooke Tater. And It's a great interview. Can't wait for you guys to hear it. So we'll be right back on Running Point. Brought to you as always by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
As fine as the eye can see, the finest hardwoods from the finest trees. Made for your home and within your means, Baird Brothers will help fulfill your dreams. Let life and light come shining through in quiet morns. And heavy traffic, too. Find your easy-to-afford fine hardwood floors and doors and more at BairdBrothers.com.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com. Brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig with you. And we're going to get to the interview section of this show and let you guys hear from Brooke Tater from Howland, as I just dropped my softball, but that's okay. Brooke Tater from Howland here is the sophomore pitcher in the conversation I had with her over the weekend. So here you go. Anthony Hartwig, we're here with a Howland softball player profile. I'm joined by Brooke Tater, their ace in the circle. Brooke, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. So, Brooke, when you think about, what it's like to go from, obviously you stepped on the scene last year as a freshman and you kind of lit the world on fire and you let everyone know exactly who you were and exactly what you were about. So now you come into a sophomore year. Everyone knows about you. There's a little bit more tape on you. How have you been able to maintain your success this year in the circle?
Definitely I really practice hard on the off season, just hitting my spots and just being confident to know that my team coaches are behind my back.
We see a lot of teams that maybe have one pitcher or they rely on one arm, but Howland, you got two. You have Alexia Spengler right behind your back that can either help you when you're not hitting your spots or take some starts away from you and really help you manage your innings. What's that been like to know that even though when you're in the circle, it's on you, but you can be outside of the circle and still have a teammate that has your back in the circle as well?
Lexi's just an awesome teammate. Even if I'm on third and she's pitching, we just support each other on and off the field, and we just have a great bond. And I'm just really proud of her. And it's just a great feeling to have. It's just somebody you can also rely on too if I'm not having a great day.
One of the things you quickly notice about this Howland softball team is it's not just you and Lexi with a great bond. This whole team is just really a strong unit. I've been able to be right next to your dugout broadcasting games. I get to hear you guys talk to each other. What's it been like to build a relationship with these teammates and these players the last 2 years at Howland?
On and off the field, we just bonding. I have great relationships with all of my teammates, and we just keep the high intensity going throughout the game, and we just all have a great bond, and we just keep a positive energy on and off the field. Even if things we just try to keep it positive and just try to have a good time.
Relationships like that don't go overnight. I mean, it takes time to build that kind of trust and to build that kind of bond and chemistry. What kind of things does this team do off the field to try to build those team chemistry moments and to try to build as strong a relationship as you can with your teammates?
Definitely like if we have a win at home, we either go like to Katie's Corners or like Mizu. We also do like a scavenger hunt, like every sports team at Howland does it. We just do like tasks all around Howland, and then like when the group like wins, we have bragging rights, and it's just a fun experience all the way around.
Take us through a typical scavenger hunt. What kind of things do you have to find? What kind of things do you have to do around Howland to check off that list? What have been some of the things that have been on the scavenger hunt?
We have to so at the end we have to like do like a task to like our for our coaches, and like this year we had to do like sticky notes, and then we all had to like to come up with like money just to buy all the sticky notes. It was just like a fun experience because like Paula from is our game changer guy and Coach Waite's house. It was just combined all together, and it's just an awesome time.
You know, Coach Waite is in her 4th year as head coach, so you've had her for both years so far. Talk about the coaching staff and what they've helped you with, and what it's been like to be under Coach Waite and her assistants, and what makes them so special and what they bring to this program.
Coach Wei is just an awesome person. What I love about her most is she just cares about us off the field. Academically, she's really hard on us, but I just love her intensity she brings on to us, and that she really does care for us. And all around, like our coaches are just awesome. I love working with them.
You know, one of the things I've also been able to notice about watching Coach Waite after games and some of the post-game, talks that she has with you guys, the standard she holds to you guys is really high. You know, some coaches might be happy with a 9-0 win, but she always finds stuff that maybe you didn't do right or maybe you need to improve on. What's that like, having a coach that is always trying to push you guys to the next level and always trying to raise the bar for you?
I love it because, every team has something to work on, positive or negative, and I just it's just an awesome feeling to know like she really does care about like our performance and she wants us to get better.
Talking about teams having stuff to work on. What about you? I mean, you had such a good freshman season, such a successful year. What kind of things did you try to focus on in the off season to get better at before you started this year?
I would say my confidence. Freshman year, I didn't really know anybody but Alyssa Masucci at the time, but I felt like during my sophomore year, I created like bonds on and off the field, and I also I change up a lot, and I relied on that pitch a lot, and I just feel really confident, and that's it.
You tell me you had the success you had without confidence, and now you have all the confidence in the world. That's a dangerous combination. What
Yeah.
kind of things gave you that confidence? I mean, obviously you find it in yourself, but what other things from the outside were able to help you build that confidence in yourself this year?
Definitely my mom and dad, they always push me, and I'm just very grateful to have them. And just knowing that like everybody, like my friends, family, people that are also like Howland staff, they all come like to support us. And my pitching coach always comes as well, and my hitting coach as well. And just an awesome feeling.
How long have you been pitching? When did you start, putting yourself in the circle and working on the pitches you throw?
I started when I was like 9 or 10 years old.
What was some of the things that made you kind of fall in love with it and obviously stick with pitching and make yourself want to be the pitcher that you are today?
Growing up, I really looked up to Kelly Barnhill. She's just an awesome like pitcher on and off the field, and we just have like the same windup. And she also grunts, and I do as well. So I have that in common with her.
Obviously, Barnhill was a fireballer. I mean, she could throw in the 70s. When you see a pitcher like that and you look up to a pitcher like that and all the other pitchers that are in the national stage, what's it like to grow up and watch them and try to emulate them and try to see what they do and try to find yourself in their pitching motion?
Definitely. If something's not working for me, I definitely just see what works for them and see if I can try it. And it just really pushes me to be like, I can be like that someday.
As you've developed in your pitching motion and you've developed your pitches, are there any ones in the national stage that you think like, hey, I really start to look like her, or really start to, model my game after that pitcher or this pitcher?
I would say, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, since you've developed a little bit as a pitcher and now you have so many good pitches, are there any pitchers, whether you watch them as a kid or you watch them now, that you watch and you think, man, I can really start to compare myself to that pitcher and I can really start to, see that I'm doing a lot of the things that they're doing and their pitching motion looks like mine, and those kind of comparisons. Anyone that come to mind with that?
I would say Hill again or Montana Fouts.
Those are good, great comparisons. Let's talk about your mindset in the batter's box too, because you obviously hit for this team and you hit very well. What's it like going from a pitcher's mindset to a hitter's mindset during a game?
It's definitely like awesome because if I have like a 2-1, I can expect the pitch that is coming, and it just helps a lot with my mentality.
How much does being a pitcher help you in the box and knowing kind of how pitchers think and how they might attack you if you were in the circle? How much does that help you while you're in the batter's box?
It definitely helps me a lot, just getting like a step ahead. And if they throw me a screw, I'll be like, okay, then they're probably gonna throw me outside or high.
And you've obviously worked with so many pitches and you've gotten so many now. What's your favorite pitch to throw? What's that go-to? Like, I need a strike, I'm going to go to it. I have the most confidence in this pitch.
I would say my backdoor curve or my changeup. I've worked on my changeup like in the off season, and I feel really confident throwing that, even at a 3-2 count, or even my backdoor curve, because I also worked on that, but it also throws batters off because it looks like it's going to hit them, but it goes outside.
What was the hardest pitch to kind of develop and get to where it's at now in your arsenal?
I would have to either go with my drop, trying like to stay down more on the pitch, or my rise ball, not trying to like extend my stride.
What pitch is next? I mean, is there anything that you're looking at that you're trying to work on, or you're trying to, get into the lab and try to develop this kind of pitch? Is there something that you're trying to work on for the rest of your career?
I have all my pitches down, but I have some things to work on with technique, but my coach, pitching coach, has really helped me with that. And I would say my drop ball I would have to work on, but it's getting better.
Shout out your pitching coach. I mean, who do you go to? Who's helped you develop all the pitches that you do have?
Coach Ed Beavers. He's just down the road. I love him so much. On and off the field, he just helped me be like a better like teammate in person. He's just awesome.
What do you think is the biggest form of advice he's given you as a pitcher while you're in the circle that you can always kind of go back on when maybe things aren't going the way you want them to?
Always give 100%. And because there's somebody out there pitching harder and wants to take your spot.
One of the things that I like asking pitchers, because obviously you play travel too, so you have a number of coaches that call pitches for you. What's that relationship like to build the trust with whoever's calling your pitches, to know that they know what they're doing and know that they know you? And what's that been like for you to kind of build that dynamic with the coaches that call your pitches during the game?
It's definitely awesome to know like I have a good bond with my coaches. Definitely my pitching coach, Haley, and Coach Chad at Outlaws. But we just have a good bond on and off the field to know like what to throw at that time. And they know my strengths and weaknesses, so that also helps as well.
The other thing we have to ask you is to bond with a catcher. Obviously, your battery is so important. You have a pretty good one back there in the backstop. What's it been like to build trust in a relationship with your catcher?
I love Kayla. She's just an awesome person. Like life takes her, but she is just a hard worker, and I am as well. And we just match each other's energy. And if something's not working, she just tries to like go out to the side, be like, "Hey, Brooke, what do you want to throw next?" Or she just calls timeout just to calm me down.
People don't understand like how much extra work goes into building that relationship with the catcher, in the bullpen, things like that, just trying to work with her. How much time do you think you and Kayla have put in to really build that bond that you have now?
I would say a lot of work, even in like warm-ups. She also comes to like my pitching practice with Ed. And so it's just awesome to see that we just created the bond the past 2 years, and we definitely came a long way from freshman to sophomore year, and just very proud of that.
All right, so let's talk about, some superstitions that you might have. Pitchers are always given that stigma of being a little bit mental. Do you have any superstitions that you bring into the circle?
I always have to like clean up like the mound a little bit. I always have to fill in like the little holes because I can't like pitch when somebody's like toe drag is there. I always have to do that. And I also have to have my rosin bag as well.
That must drive you crazy. Like that's easier to do when you're starting, but when you come in off in relief, you really have to clean out that circle a lot.
Yes.
When you think of that mindset, talking about coming in relief, these are two pitchers that you have on this team. You're either starting or you're obviously on call if you're not starting. What's that mindset like to be able to say, okay, we're in the fourth inning, the bases are loaded, and I have to come in and I have to get a couple outs. What's that been like for you?
Definitely just try to be like comfortable, and I am comfortable with my teammates, and I just have to trust them, and just having a positive mindset to know that we are going to get out of this inning and we're going to get runs.
Let's get to know you a little bit outside of softball before we let you go. First question is, what are some things that you like to do outside of the sport? Obviously, you spend so much time with softball, you work so hard at it, but you got to have those escapes a little bit to save off wearing yourself down. So what are some things that you like to do outside of the sport?
I love hanging out with family and friends, cooking. I enjoy just listening to music, and I also got my license as well, so I'll definitely be in the car a lot as well.
You brought up cooking. What are some of your favorite dishes to get in the kitchen and cook?
Either me and my mom always make her homemade spaghetti and meatballs or meatloaf.
If you had like someone was coming over and like, man, I have to have my best dish, the one I can always cook, it's gonna impress them. What would it be? Would it be that?
I would think my chicken francais.
From your taste, not someone else's, but your taste, what do you think is the best home cooked meal in your house?
I really like my mom's. I would have to say the spaghetti and meatballs.
It's a go-to. It's definitely a go-to. When you think about, you just got your license, so we'll ask if you could have any car in the world, like money wasn't an option, you could just go get your dream car. What would it be?
A Tesla. They're so cool.
Do you have a favorite color for cars? Was there a color that you'd want it to be?
I like wet or black. It doesn't matter to me.
You're driving. You got the music on. What kind of songs are you listening to on a nice drive?
I like listening like to Drake or 21 Savage. I like R&B a lot.
Now, does driving songs, is that the same as the pregame songs that get you hyped up, or does that playlist change?
All the time.
All the time. What if we took you to karaoke night? What would be like your go-to karaoke song?
Party in the USA by Miley Cyrus.
A lot of people say that one. Your teammates there, who would be the teammate that would be the first on the stage to get up and grab the mic and sing a karaoke song?
Alyssa Masucci.
What song do you think she'd pick? Like, what does she sing all the time?
Shine Bright Like a Diamond.
There
or like
is.
something from Morgan as well.
When you think of teammates and who you trust the most to kind of be that getaway driver, if you need one, who do you trust the most?
Kayla Campbell.
Who's the teammate that you think is most likely to need a getaway driver?
Alyssa.
Who's the player that takes things like the most seriously, hard to crack, hard to make laugh?
I would say Jade.
What about the opposite? Who's like the easiest going and the easiest to make laugh and to make smile?
Zoe King.
When you think about your teammates, who has the most style? Who has the most swag on the team?
Zoe King.
Who has doesn't have swag but thinks they do and acts like they do?
Let's say Alyssa.
Who's the best dancer?
Callie.
And when you think about yourself, what category would you put you're in? Like if you had one thing on the field that you're the best at on the team, what's one thing that you think you would fit into?
Can you say that again?
If you had one thing that you think you're the best at, because I've been asking like who's the best dancer, who's got the best style. If you had one thing that you had to put yourself in, like I'm the best this on the team, what do you think it'd be?
Best music taste.
Yeah, there it is. Brooke, before we let you go, I want to give you the chance to thank your support system and all the people that have been there for you throughout your career and the people that have your back.
Thank you to my pitching coach at Beavers, my hitting coach, Dave Flickinger, my high school and travel coaches and teammates, my family and friends.
Brooke, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We loved having you on. We will continue to cover you throughout your career. We wish you the best of luck going forward, and we can't wait to talk to you again real soon.
Thank you for having me.
Brooke Tater from Howland, and that was a great interview with her. Glad you were able to hear it. And if you missed it or want to see it in its entirety, missed a part of it, it is up on our YouTube page right now. You can go and check it out on our YouTube page and on the website. You can find it there as well. If you're over there on our YouTube page watching that interview, or you're watching this show on YouTube, whether it be live or you're watching it later, which you can do, if you feel so obligated to, and if you feel, I shouldn't say obligated, you're not obligated to. I'm not gonna sit there with a paddle behind you and say, if you don't subscribe, you're getting it, But if you feel so kindly to, and if you would want to, hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel at YSN, and then like our videos and comment on them so we get a nice little boost in the YouTube algorithm as well. And if you are going to subscribe to our YouTube page, or if you already subscribed to our YouTube page, make sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss a minute of the video action that we do put up on that channel. YouTube's algorithm, I say it every day, can kind of be hit or miss. And you don't want to miss a minute of the video content that we do put up. So whether it be player profiles, coaches' corners, post-game interviews, game highlights, a lot more, you can find those on our YouTube channel, Ysn Live, and you don't want to miss a minute of it. So hit that notification bell so you are always notified when we do post new videos. We do that almost daily. We had a lot of videos be posted yesterday. Myself, DJ Oakley, Sam Torres, we all took advantage of the night where we weren't doing any games. We posted a lot of content on that YouTube channel. So go check all that fun stuff out. There's a Coach's Corner with Aaron Agresta from Valley Christian. A couple other Valley Christian interviews. Hake's Take is up there as well. Sam was able to put up on the 440 YouTube page, which is kind of interlocked with ours. So you can watch this show on the 440 Sports YouTube page. So if you're over there, his interviews with St. John are up there as well. So bunch of new stuff on our YouTube. And we're going to get a couple more stuff tonight, I think, in line for being able to put a couple of more pieces of content up tonight with no more games tonight either. So let's actually check that. Let's go to the schedule and check what's going to be happening tonight on the network. Last I checked, there was one game that was still standing all by its lonesome on the softball side. And it is Hoban at Akron St. Vincent St. Mary. That is the only game that is happening tonight right now. Matt Maher is going to be on the call if it happens. It's going to be at Firestone Stadium in Akron, so the former home of the Akron Racers. So that game is happening. Every baseball game on the schedule today for YSN teams has been canceled. So instead of saying them all and just kind of reading this huge list of games, if you're in the YSN family and you were scheduled to play baseball today, you're not. It's red. Everything's red for baseball. And if you are a YSN family school and you're scheduled to play softball and you're not Hoban, you're canceled. That's basically how it goes for today. We do have tennis still green at 3:45. Warren Harding at Struthers. Bob Zanny and the school crew will have that if it stays on. Rain is supposed to come into the area at about 3, so we'll definitely keep an eye on that. But we are supposed to still have tennis on the network and one softball game. And we are fingers crossed that they both stay on so we get a little bit of a taste of the sport today. So that'll do it for today's episode of Running Point. We don't have a lot to preview because there's not a lot going on tonight. So that'll do it for today's episode. Tomorrow we're going to be back from 1 to 2. Scotty Mitchell are going to be joining us like he always does on Wednesday. He brings great stuff to the table. We'll dive into more tournament talk. We only got through one division today. So we'll dive into D2 tomorrow, start talking about that a little bit, look at all their brackets for the Northeast District, and then have fun with Scotty as well. So don't miss us tomorrow from 1 to 2 on Running Point. Thank you so much for tuning in today. to the show.